Hi everyone. So before I start this story, I do want to point out that this story has striking similarities to a certain Marvel character. It was not intentional, as I was not meaning to have it like that. I didn't really think about it at the time, but it does have those. Either way though, I hope you guys still enjoy it, and yeah, let me know what you think. I oftentimes hear people say things like, I want to be immortal, or I wish I could live forever. It's a natural part of the human psyche, I suppose. The fear of death, or rather what comes after, drives us to believe there's some hope of living forever, whether through reincarnation or otherwise. But if people knew what I knew, what I've experienced, they would expel that thought from their minds and never look back. I was born on April 8th, 1584. 437 years ago. I suppose that makes today my birthday, though those lost meaning to me a long, long time ago. I've lived through wars, plagues, depressions. I've seen death. So much death. I've watched humanity rise and fall, over and over again. A never-ending cycle of arrogance and stupidity. They never seem to learn. A cynical point of view, I know, but if you'd seen the things I've seen, you would probably share my way of thinking. War, pain, death, suffering, all around me. But as horrible as it's been to watch humanity destroy each other, it's nothing compared to the true curse that is the inability to die. You might think that being immortal, you don't feel pain or sadness. Your life is a never-ending adventure with endless possibilities. And I honestly wish I could tell you that this is true, but unfortunately, that could not be further from the truth. I've fought in countless wars over the years, maybe to try to fight the good fight, or maybe hoping that some miracle would happen on the battlefield that would put me out of the misery that has become my life. I've had arms and legs blown off more times than I can count, had my body filled with shrapnel, ripping into my face, taking chunks of flesh as they go. I've seen my entrails protruding from my body, held them in my hands. I've had heart attacks, blood vessels burst in my brain. The most intense pain you can imagine, I've felt it over and over again. My limbs grow back pretty quickly, the wounds heal, but I feel every single ounce of pain, every time. Back in the 1960s, I got involved with the mafia. Not my best of times, but I needed a change and they paid well. I won't tell you exactly what my role was, but I can tell you I did many things that I'm not proud of. Things I deeply regret, but that's in the past and nothing can be done to change it, so I'll just move on with my story. I did my work with the mafia for nearly 7 years. They treated me well, and for a while I lived like a king. But if there's one thing you should know about the mafia, it's that once you're in, there's no getting out. Not alive, anyway. One night, one of the head guys contacted me and asked me to do a job, but it was a job that I couldn't do. Not physically, but morally, I guess. So I refused. The problem is, they don't take no for an answer. Around 1963, I met someone that for the first time in nearly a century I connected with, and eventually grew to love. She meant the world to me, and I would have given anything to make her happy. As I've learned, though, all good things come to an end, and eventually, so did we. It had been nearly 2 years since I've seen or spoken to her at this time. I didn't go home the night of my refusal. Instead, I bar hopped, trying to forget about what the mafia would surely have in store for me for disrespecting them. The following morning, I returned home. Walking through the massive double doors of my oversized house, the sight that awaits me is one I will never forget. It haunts me to this day. Right in front of me, kneeled down in front of the stairway, is her, the woman that I'd fallen in love with years before. Blood running down her face, flowing over her lips like a waterfall. Around her stood over a dozen guys holding an assortment of weapons, from assault rifles to baseball bats. Then he comes, the boss, walking down the stairs, laughing, telling me that I had disrespected him and his family, and that now I would pay the price for my actions. He sat each of us in cold metal chairs, tied tightly, facing each other. This sociopathic asshole then proceeded to tell me that what I had done had deeply hurt him, and that I would now die for refusing him. But not yet. not before I watched. He took a hammer from one of his guys and started toward her. I screamed, begging him not to hurt her, to take my life, but not hers. He laughed. He said that he was going to kill her, painfully, and that I was going to watch. Tears rushing from my face, barely able to breathe, I refused. So he handed the hammer back, pulled a knife from his coat, and started toward me. He stands over me, staring at me, with the most sadistic smile I had ever remembered seeing. "You will watch. You don't have a choice," he says, before grabbing me by my hair and sloppily cutting my eyelids from my face. She screamed. I screamed. The pain was like nothing I'd ever felt, but nothing compared to what I was about to experience. He ordered one of his guys to hold my head, facing her. My eyelids gone, stuck in that chair, there was nothing I could do, nothing but watch. He walked over to her, snatching the hammer on his way, and then he began. The first hit landed right next to her eye socket, pushing part of her eyeball out of her head. She screamed, a scream that I will never forget, a scream that I hear every fucking night in my dreams. Then he kept going, over and over and over. He didn't stop, not until there was nothing left to hit. My heart raced, anger, sadness, devastation. She was gone, an amazing, innocent woman, dead because of me. Laughing, he once again pulled his knife and walked to me, forcing the blade through my cheek into my head before walking out of my front door as though nothing had happened. The others followed, one kicking me in the chair that I was still attached to the ground. I lay there for hours, the pain coursing through my body. The direction in which I fell put her right into my sights. The physical pain I was feeling was nothing compared to the pain of seeing her lifeless body in front of me, knowing that her blood was on my hands. I'd hoped, like so many other times before, that I would die, that this would finally be it. If only I had been so lucky. It took nearly a day for my wounds to heal. I lived in a remote location outside of town and didn't really have friends, so there was almost no chance of anyone finding me. But finally, I was whole again. After what felt like hours of struggling, I managed to break free of the ropes that had imprisoned me. I didn't know what to do or where to go, but I knew I couldn't stay here. I had to move on. I carried her to the garden and buried her before disappearing into the world. I have so many stories, many filled with sorrow, none with a happy ending. But in the centuries that I've walked this planet, losing her, seeing her like that, was the worst pain that I have ever felt. It's been nearly 60 years since I watched her die, and those memories stick with me even now. I can't forget. I'm not allowed to forget. She was the loss that impacted me the most, I'd say, but she wasn't the first. My mother, father, sisters, brothers, all gone, for centuries. Every person that I've ever grown to care for, lost. They grow old, live their lives, and eventually die. A luxury I can only wish to experience. I'm alone in this world, and I always will be, because I won't allow another person to get close to me. I won't add to the already unbearable pain I feel every minute of every day. So for now, I will continue to live my life, and every night, I'll get on my knees and beg whatever God there may be to take me, to end my suffering, as I've done for nearly 6 decades now.